This video is about how to set up the Grimm Audio UC1 Universal Converter as an audiophile DAC. But first, a short introduction to this really interesting device. The Grimm Audio UC1 is the most versatile digital converter we've come across at Atelier 13 Audio, and that's not really surprising because at its core, it's a very high-quality professional audio mastering studio converter. That being said, when we convert it to audiophile use, it becomes a very high-performance DAC, a preamplifier, a headphone amplifier, and if needed, an ADC and even a master clock for use with high-end CD transports, such as our CEC TL2N, for instance. From the outset, we were expecting that the Grimm UC1 would not add any colorations, and it doesn't. In fact, its DAC exhibits a very complete and clean picture of the musical event. Nothing distracts, nothing gets in the way. Everything feels well balanced. The imaging is amazingly realistic and tight in focus. Timing, in other words, phase, is nothing short of spectacular, which is due to Grimm's cutting-edge clocking approach that delivers extremely low jitter, which in turn results in extraordinary phrasing and articulation, fast and precise microdynamic impulse restitution, a total lack of smearing and veiling across the frequency spectrum. In audiophile terms, it sounds supremely musical, disarmingly honest, deeply insightful, and is musically fluent, in as far as it captures the expressive essence of the entire range of music genres. In summary, we believe that with the UC1, Grimm has made available an incredibly high-performing device, so good and yet so versatile that it should be seriously considered for audiophile system application. And that is a very big achievement given its surprisingly accessible price tag. So now let's start by looking at its functional design. The front panel controls and the display, followed by the connectivity features on its rear panel. From left to right in the image, in the front panel, we see the headphone output and its related volume control. Next is a 1/4-inch jack input for quick monitoring of demo tracks, which we can ignore as it is only for use for pro audio mastering purposes. Next up is the front panel's USB input, also known as the iPut. Although this can be used in an audiophile system, it's part of the recording loop circuit, as they say, and the UC1 offers a more conveniently located main USB input at the rear panel for use in an audiophile system. Finally, we see a display screen with a set of 2 small silver buttons to its right, and then the large round control and volume knob. These 3 elements, in conjunction with one another, are used to make all the required settings for the UC1 diverse functionality spectrum, including the setup as an audiophile DAC, which is a relatively straightforward and simple procedure that will be shown in a step-by-step detail later on this video. Now let's look at where to connect our digital sources and our downstream analog components on the UC1 rear panel. The UC1 offers a wide array of connections, but we will focus only on the connections required for use as an audiophile DAC. In this image, from the top to bottom, we first show 2 sets of XLR balanced analog outputs, one for connection to an integrated amplifier, and a second set of balanced outputs if needed. Next down is the main rear USB input for connection to servers or streamers that require a USB connection. And lastly, 2 SPDIF AES3 XLR inputs for connecting to server streamers that have AES outputs, or alternatively connecting to sources with coax RCA output connectors such as a CD transport, in which case a coax RCA to AES digital interconnect cable is required. You may be wondering what the XLR connector is directly beneath the 2 AES inputs. This one is a UC1 digital output, which could be used to connect your sources to another system. The next clip will show where these connections are on the UC1's rear panel. And now finally to the Audiophile DAC setup procedure. Let's quickly review the three elements needed to achieve this again. The large round knob, which in this case would be used as a selector for the various functions and the various preferences. The two small silver buttons, which are used to select between the different function and preference menus and to memorize and exit the setup process. And the display screen, which shows the menus, the functions, and the preferences, and guides you visually through the process as you select, activate, and confirm the required settings for the Audiophile DAC application, one by one, and in sequence. We end this video with the 6-minute video which shows you visually how this is done. We hope you find this useful. What you see here is the main display at the moment. We're not in the menu screen, which you see up here. Menu and the first button for selecting your preferences and your settings. So we're now going to start selecting settings. So we're going to press this top one here is the functions. When you press it, you'll see immediately where you see F1 right there in the upper corner. And that's selected, and you see F2, P1, P2, P3, and S1 right next to it in series. The series goes this way. You'll see under each one of those, you'll see a list of functions that you need or preferences that you need to select. Here you have the monitor source with the little arrow next to it. That's it. Now, in order to activate this one and change it, it now says digital in 1 and 2. We're going to press it. The big button, and when you press this big button here once, you see that the arrow begins to activate there and blink. So now if you take the button again, we're going to now turn it. It changed to analog in 1 and 2. If you have an analog device, I don't know, phonostat or whatever, tape, you can connect, you can have that input in. An analog input is of a digital one. We do it one more time here. We have iPut. We have another analog input 3-4. You've got an iPut, which is a USB type in the front. That's the front USB. Digital 3 in 4. That's the second pair of AES inputs. Now the first one is in 1, 2. This is in 3, 4. And USB 1, 2 is the main USB at the back. Input 3, 4, and so on and so forth. And here we're back to digital 1 in. Digital in 1, 2, which is where we want to be. I'm going to set it to that to put in, and you connect a CD transport or whatever. So now we're done with that one. To stop it, we've selected, so we want to confirm the selection. The thing's still blinking here, right? So now we'll just, but to do that, we just press this once. There you go. Now we're going to move to the second one, says special stereo. Move too fast, back up. There you go. We're in stereo. You want to see what happens mono? Well, we want to see, here we go, boom. It blinks and surprise, surprise. It's mono, we don't want it, we go back. Stereo, and we want that. So press it again, it's now set. Fold back will leave off, music off. So now we don't want to touch any of these, so we can now simply go to F2, the next one, up here. Press this button again to go to the next one. By the way, if you keep on pressing it, it just goes to the next one and the next one and the next one, and now we'll get to F2. F2, we have set the clock to slave to digital 1, 2. If you want to change that, you press this. There you go. Now you can, but we want it at slave. You can then do, you see, you can slave to world clock, slave to a master, but no, we want to bring it back by turning it to slave to digital 1, 2 is where your source is stuck in. What this says is that the DAC's going to slave itself to the clock of the source device, okay? We want to leave auto switch, so that's what we want. Press it again, boom, done. And now we go down to auto switch. We leave it at the auto switch clock, yes. What that means is that now, let's say the source is going to put out a 24-bit signal. This will recognize it. Since you've slaved it, it'll recognize it and just switch automatically to 24-bit. We don't want second out on, and we won't compare off, we don't need either. So we're just gonna get out of this one and go to the next one by pressing that. Main out is analog out, is where we've chosen that output, 1 and 2, so that's fine, that's where the signal is gonna go out. The others are max in, that's the amount of signal sensitivity that the device will receive from a source, which we'll leave at this, at 24. Main out volume is on. What does that mean? That basically means if you turn it off, your volume control will be not functioning. You might as well leave it on, because you just set a certain level of gain at the output of this thing, and then your integrated or preamp will do the rest. And ignore the PC control MIDI volume. You don't need this. This is for their recording and mastering requirements. So we leave it off. So we press that again. Now we're in P2. Monitor mode means just the speakers. Normal means just speaker not active, passive speaker. Soft key, second out. We're gonna take it off, by the way. We're going to come down one. There we go. We're gonna do this, and sorry, we're gonna go back up again. I'm gonna go down one to soft key, and now you have a choice here, special, dim, you could dim it, you could put it to compare mode, fast this, we might as well leave it in soft key, in second out. Okay, there we go. Select it. The phones are normal. This is the phase when you play, you stick in your headphones. You can actually invert phase here by coming to this one, and it's polarity really, 0, 180. And the reference level, I've set it for this device to be at -8 dB. So you can go lower than that or higher than that. It's just a reference level. In Pro Audio, they have to select a reference level. It's 8 dB above a notional 0 for them. In any case, that's done. And now if we go further, P3 display brightness, we've set it to 4. You can change it to 5, but 4 is fine. You can the display auto dim is off. That means that when you turn it on, it'll be lit up, and then within 30 seconds it dims off, which is a pain. I like it on. Main screen meters are on. Now the main screen meters are what I showed you earlier. We'll show you them in a minute. And we're just going to get out of this into S1. S1 is just information, what your firmware version is, your hardware version, and so on. So now we're done with all of this. We've set everything. And to exit, you see down here, next to this button right here, says exit. We're going to go here, exit, and press the lower button. When you press the lower button, up, there you are. You've exited the whole process of setup, and it takes you right back to this thing up here. See, now we have a problem here because I wanted an A in analog, the input. It says USB 7.8. That's not what I selected. I must have touched something. Second out menu. So I'm going back in just to show you the error. And you see the monitor source. I press that, it's blinking. We got to correct that. Digital 1 in, see, there you go. We have that one. And now to make sure we select it there, it's done. And now we exit, save and exit. There we are. It shows as digital. It's showing as digital 1 too. Perfect. And voila, that's about it. Now these are as I said, these things down here, this one and that one, this is your signal strength like a VU meter. This is the one on the left is for the inputs, and the one on the right is for the output level that you will see. And that just tells you things are happening. And if you want to manipulate or change the volume, you see that -8, guess what? Now this volume knob becomes a volume knob like a normal one. So here you go.